Yo, what is going on, everyone? It is Wraith here, back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how to kill tryhards or how to kill sweat players in Fortnite, because recently, like I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, that I haven't been playing Fortnite as much. Obviously I just kind of got back into it, been grinding it a little bit here or there, but obviously there's a ton of players who surpassed my skill level or who caught up to me or whatever the case is, so I'm finding it a lot more difficult because there's a lot more better players, and I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way, how the skill level has increased quite a bit in Fortnite Season 4. So in this video I'm going to be talking about how you can kind of deal with kids who are really good or maybe better than you, or who kids are just pretty solid at the game and you're fighting them. So if you're looking forward to this video, make sure you slap a like button on it, comment what you want to see for a future video, hit that subscribe button, use creator code WraithFN in the item shop, and let's get into it. So for my first tip is you can't let them run over you, and whatever their aggression is upon you, you have to kind of put it back on them. So what I mean about that is, for example, if they hit you with their AR like for 2 shots right at the start of the fight, don't just instantly go into heal, shoot back. Like Clicks does that really well, where someone shoots at him and he gets hit like 3 or 4 times. He may be at 80, 90, 110 HP, but instead of just healing and like boxing up instantly and having that guy pressure him and then him for the entire fight being low, he peeks and goes for like a couple shots on the guy. The guy's not going to be expecting him to peek when he just hit him for 110. So if Clicks can get in even 1 to 2 damages, like 60 damage, then the other guy's going to be like, oh, well, I need to heal a little bit here, and then Clicks has more time to heal. Same thing goes with throughout the fight. If the guy hits you for 140 and you're just continuously trying to run, trying to box up, trying to do whatever the case is, trying to heal, which I'll talk about in a little bit, eventually he's just going to take your wall, edit and pump you and kill you, right? So what you need to do is, if he just continuously is after you and you're not shaking him, obviously try and do a couple things, but if you're not shaking him and you can't heal, you're gonna have to make a play. Don't just continuously keep boxing out or running away or whatever the case is, like for a full 2 minutes, because eventually he's gonna catch you and kill you. So what you need to do is, if he just keeps following you, is make an edit, try and make a play. If you're at 100, or even if you're at 20 HP and they're at 200, just make and try and go for a big pump shot or something like that. Try and get a couple takes in so he's forced to heal, and then you can breathe for a second, reset, heal, do whatever you need to do. But if you just let the person run all over you, whether it's, like I said, at the start of the fight, mid of the fight, end of the fight, whatever the case is, well, then you're not going to beat the sweats. And sweats are obviously really good at continuously applying pressure, so they're not going to expect it when you kind of put it back on them. So now my next tip, and so many people think this way, and I'll obviously get into it, that it just blows my mind, and it's that so many people think that they need to be on high ground no matter what to win a fight, and no matter what happens, they'll try and get high ground at the start of the fight, and they'll box up, and when the person comes down, they'll leave through the side and try and take high ground again. And don't get me wrong, like, high ground is good. It allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, allows you to put more pressure on the person, as well as you can kind of see and control the fight a little bit better, but it's 100% not the only way to win a fight. Like, so many times you can win fight from low ground, mid ground, whatever the case is. Obviously if it's a 1v1 or end game, it's a little bit different, but in the scenario of 1v1, you don't need to get high ground. Obviously if you can take it and grab it and then be aggressive on your opponent, but if not, it's completely okay. Like, you don't always got to be going for high ground. Like, a lot of sweat players and good players always think, okay, I'm going to show my builds off, I'm going to crank, get high ground, and then I win the fight, right? But having high ground doesn't automatically mean that you win the fight. So obviously worry about high ground, but there's completely no problem with fighting from a box low ground and letting that person come to you. Like, be patient. Being patient is so key, and so many people don't be patient. There's so many things that can happen. Like, even if you're 200 and that person just keeps out building you, they're coning you, they're piece controlling you, or you just lost a high ground, which again isn't a big deal, literally just sit in the box low ground and wait for them. They don't push you, that's their fault. And obviously if it's a tournament and you need kills, then obviously you need to be a little bit more aggressive. Or if it's an arena and you like being aggressive, well, then obviously it's a little bit different. But I'm talking just in a fight, you really want to win against a better player, it's not a big deal just sitting and being patient. A ton of things can happen. One, a third party can come, and then you can do whatever you want to do. You can help the third party, like you can become the third party, you can leave, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can heal up. If you're low, you can kind of wait for them to drop down and then edit on them and try and piece control them in the box, or whatever the case is, right? Just be patient, and remember, high ground isn't always a benefit. Obviously it can help in a specific scenarios, but it's not always the kind of do or die for a fight. Now this next tip is a super big one if you want to start winning against just players in general when you're weak. And I see so many people struggle with this, and I kill so many people like this as well, where it's basically if you get hit for a bit, and let's say I hit you for 100 damage or 160 or 50 damage or whatever the case is, right? If I hit you and you're trying to heal with a big pot or minis, a lot of people will, like I say, just box out once or twice or try and build up to height and then try and heal. The problem with that is, especially now, people are pretty good at kind of seeing where you're going. So if you box out once or twice, for the generally amount of decent players, they'll follow you pretty easily and then start shooting at your build, try and take your wall, and then by the time you're done healing or you're done popping your minis or big shield, your wall will be taken, they edit on you, and then do the exact same amount of damage or kill you or whatever the case is, right? So instead of just boxing out or building up, what you need to do is try and start outplaying your opponent. And a really good way to do that when you need to heal is switch to your brick or metal, like hard mats, obviously if you have some, and then either build up, like box out a couple of times, like 3 or 4 times. Like, don't be scared to waste mats. It's better to die with 0 mats than it is with 700 mats, because you obviously could have gotten out of it. Or it's even better to live with 0 mats than it is, no, you guys know what I mean. It's a lot better to use your mats. Like, don't be scared of using your mats because you want to have it for endgame, because if you don't even make endgame, it doesn't matter if you have 2,000 mats or 1,000 mats or whatever the case is, you know what I mean, right? So what you need to do is switch to brick or metal, box out like 3 or 4 times, give it a second, and then go back into your old brick and metal. That way you have a fully strong built box, then you can heal. There's a lot difference between when you just start build out of metal or wood and then they pickaxe your wall twice and they take it, than if you go back into your fully built metal and then they have to pickaxe it like 6-7 times or whatever it is, right? So try and start outthinking your opponent. That's a really good way you can do it if you really need to heal, instead of just going consistently for the high ground heal or 1 or 2 boxes out without a wood or something like that. Just simple things like that can really help you in a fight. And after you get that big pot off or those minis off, then obviously you're at a way better and a higher advantage to win that fight. So this next tip is pretty similar to kind of the first one, on almost the opposite, where it's if you're in an important situation, like for example, if you're in a tournament or you're in a fight and you're super low HP or you're super low mat, there's kind of 2 scenarios you have. Is one, you can either go all out, like I said, where you just instantly try and go for the full kill, like the 200 pump, or you try and piece control him and then jump in his box, whatever the case. You can go with a cycle play, or you can try and kind of wait for something, wait for an opportunity to try and dip. Now, I'm not saying you want to dip, like no matter, like if you're just fighting and then you try and jump off the builds and then run away, most likely not, like you're going to get killed. The person's going to shoot you in the back with the AR and you're going to get damaged a lot, or third party is going to come, or whatever the case is, right? If you just try and run mid-fight, obviously there's opportunities where you can get away, but you have to see those opportunities. So what I would do is, if you're in a really struggle, you're in a bad spot, then make sure that like you either wait for a third party to come and then you can leave, or you can't really do too much. Like if you see an opportunity to leave and you're low HP or you're low mats and you're in a big game or you're in an arena and you don't want to die or whatever the case is, it's not a bad thing to run, but just make sure you know, like when you're running, you're not going to get shot in the back, or you're not going to get keyed again, because then there's no point, right? You may as well just stay in your builds. So you kind of have 2 kind of decisions. If you're really low on mats or HP or whatever the case is, either 1, you go full out, try and jump in their box, trying to kill them, or 2, if you have the opportunity, remember, if you have the opportunity, if you don't bother running, you're just going to die 100%, then leave. So my last tip is a little bit obvious, but don't worry, I'll elaborate and explain a little bit more what I mean. And my last tip is basically you got to keep improving and keep getting better. So now you guys might be like, oh wow, thanks, like I didn't know I needed to get better. But what I mean about that is, depending on your skill level, so obviously these tips are really going to help you in specific fights. Like obviously you can't use every single one of these tips every single fight you take, and if you're fighting players who are better than you every single fight and you're going to out mechanic, out aimed, out built every single fight, well then maybe I would say, instead of worrying about these small little tips, worry about kind of improving yourself as a player, become a better player. Because if you're just getting outplayed by every single person you come across or every 2 people you're coming across, yeah, sure, these little tips are going to help you, but it's not going to help as much as you putting your time and focus into becoming a better player instead of worrying about small little tricks. Now if you're a pretty average player or a pretty good player and you win majority of your fights, but there's still odd people you come across who are a little bit better than you, and whatever the case is, outbuilding or whatever the case is, or even if they're not better than you, they just in a fight, well then obviously now you can just kind of focus a little bit more on these small little tips. But if you're not there yet, that's 100% okay. My literally whole channel is about making you guys a better player. So if you're not there yet, just keep focusing on improving, getting better. Watch my videos, watch pro players, watch Jarian's videos, other people's on YouTube. Doesn't have to just watch me. Any kind of foreign knowledge that's from a good source is a good way to learn. But yeah, just keep getting better, and trust me, eventually you guys will become the sweat player. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you slap the like button on it. Comment what you want to see for a future video. Hit that subscribe button. Use creator code WraithFN in the item shop, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.